Now let me tell y'all something real clear. Sometimes the deepest cuts don't come from strangers. They come from the hands that once fed you grits and gravy. Folks who rocked you to sleep, wiped your tears, and promised they'd always be there. Until the day your shine made 'em squint. That's a kind of hurt that sits deep in your chest, like cold air on an old wound. And baby, I carried that pain around like Sunday's purse. Heavy, but I still held it close. See, when I was starting out, I was just trying to keep the lights on. I wasn't after nobody's approval. I just wanted to eat and maybe help my people eat too. And when the money finally came, I didn't hide it. I shared it. I opened up my home, my heart, and my bank account. Paid off bills that didn't have my name on 'em. Smiled through the silence when nobody clapped for me. Because that's what love is, ain't it? But oh baby, one day it shifted. Cold as a February morning. All it took was one rough patch, one misstep, and they looked at me like I was nothing. Called me names I wouldn't repeat even in prayer. Leave, you lowlife, they said, and they meant it. After all I gave, I stood there broken, but not destroyed. And let me tell you what looked like the end. That was God clearing the path. 'Cause that push out the door, it was the very thing that set me free. Sometimes your breakdown is just your breakthrough. Wearing a disguise. I didn't come from much. Just red clay under my feet, calluses on my hands, and the kind of silence that settles in when nobody expects anything from you. I came from a long line of folks who believed in working hard, sun up to sun down, but didn't believe dreams had a place at the dinner table. You talk about starting a business or changing your stars, they'd look at you like you said you were flying to the moon. Not 'cause they didn't love you, but because life had worn their dreams so thin, they forgot what dreaming even felt like. But I had something they couldn't touch. Vision. Didn't have the money, the pedigree, or the connections. But I had fire, had grit. Had this little whisper in my soul saying, try again. And honey, I did. Over and over. I started with a busted old laptop that overheated if you looked at it too long, sitting in the back booth of a diner with spotty Wi-Fi and coffee that tasted like burnt hope. But I stayed. While folks were out partying, judging, doubting, I was building. Quietly, humbly, desperately. That first year, I ate more canned beans than I care to admit. Instant coffee kept me up and anxiety kept me going. Friends stopped calling. Family thought I'd lost my mind. They said, "You still doing that little thing?" Like I was playing dress up, not building an empire. But I kept at it. I learned, I failed, I cried. But I moved. Second year, that little side hustle started bringing in real money. I remember the day I made enough to pay all my bills and still had something left over. I sat on my porch, held that check in my hand, and wept like a baby, not because of the money, but because I finally saw proof that I wasn't crazy, that maybe, just maybe, I was born for something more. By year 5, that little thing had grown into a 60 million company, debt-free, no investors, no slick talkers, just me, a team of good-hearted folks who believed in the second chance they were given, and a business built on honesty, service, and heart. I wasn't just making money. I was changing lives, giving jobs to people who'd been overlooked, told they weren't good enough. Just like I had been. And oh, the folks who once whispered behind my back. They started shouting my name like we'd always been close. But that's all right. I didn't build this for applause. I built it so I'd never have to beg for a seat at somebody else's table again. Let me tell you something, sugar. This world, it won't always water your dreams. Sometimes it'll laugh at 'em, step on 'em, act like they don't even matter. You'll hear, be realistic. More times than, I believe in you. But just 'cause the world won't water your dreams don't mean they can't grow. Sometimes you gotta be your own rain. You gotta cry on it, pray on it, work when you're tired and show up when no one's watching. You gotta learn to clap for your own damn self, even if you the only one clappin'. 'Cause if you can't nurture your vision when it's small and fragile, you sure won't know how to handle it when it grows strong and mighty. I didn't have a blueprint. I had guts. And a whole lot of late nights with no guarantee. But I planted that seed deep in the dirt of belief, watered it with my tears, fed it with my faith, and gave it time. That's all some dreams need. A little room, a little care, and someone who believes in them more than they fear failure. So if you sittin' there wonderin' if it's worth it, if that idea in your heart's too wild, too late, too risky, I want you to remember me. Remember the girl with the busted laptop and the borrowed Wi-Fi. The one who came from nothing but dared to build everything. If I can do it, baby, so can you. Now listen here. Just 'cause someone shares your blood doesn't mean they share your vision. Lord knows I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And it hurts, baby. It don't just sting, it lingers. Like a bruise under your skin that don't show but throbs when the weather shifts. You grow up thinkin' family means forever, thinkin' love's unconditional. Until the conditions show up dressed like dollar signs. I didn't just build my dream for me. No, ma'am. I built it with them in mind. Every late night, every sacrifice, every win. When the checks started clearin', I didn't run off to no private island. I ran home, paid off credit cards I never used, cleared loans I didn't sign for, bought houses I never even set foot in, just to make sure they had a roof. I paid for college tuitions that never turned into degrees and signed cars I didn't drive. I covered surgeries, therapy, braces, and rent. Took them on trips they never could have imagined. All expenses paid, and I didn't do it to brag. I did it 'cause I thought that's what family does. I thought, surely, if I lifted them up, they'd be proud. They'd be grateful. Maybe they'd clap when I walked into a room. But you know what came instead? Silence. Side eyes. Whispers behind doors I bought. Funny looks when I talked business at the table. Suddenly, everything I said sounded like I was showing off. Suddenly, I was too good, too busy, too important. They said I changed. But baby, I didn't change. I grew. And they just refused to grow with me. See, folks like the version of you that struggles. That depends on them. That stays small. But start elevatin'. Start speaking like you believe in yourself. And watch how quick the temperature drops. The love turns cold. The smiles go thin. And the congratulations come with a side of shade. One day I came home, body tired, soul tired, just wanting a little rest, maybe a thank you, maybe even just peace. I walked through that door expecting comfort. Instead, I got contempt. Leave, you low life. It was spit like venom. Like I was nothing. Like I hadn't just given every ounce of myself to keep that household floatin'. And baby, let me tell you, that broke me. Not the words, but the truth behind him, that all I had given meant nothing. That the love I thought was real was only there when I was useful. That loyalty don't run as deep as envy. I stood there, silent, shattered, trying to hold back the flood risin' in my chest, and I realized, in that moment, I didn't lose their love. I lost my illusion of it. I finally saw it for what it was. Sometimes your rise threatens those who never believed in you to begin with, not 'cause you did anything wrong, but because you dared to prove them wrong. Your light exposes their darkness. Your wins remind them of what they never chased. And instead of reachin' for your hand to rise with you, they'd rather pull you back down where it's comfortable. And oh, the pain of being rejected by the very people you thought you were buildin' everything for. It cuts deep. But you know what cuts deeper? Stayin' somewhere you ain't respected. Lovin' folks who only love you when you small, so I packed my bags. Not in anger, not in spite, but in freedom. Walked away with my dignity, even if my heart was in pieces. And I want you to know, if you've ever had to leave behind the people you love for the sake of your peace, that doesn't make you selfish. That makes you brave. Family isn't just blood. It's respect. It's reciprocity. It's folks who cheer for you, even when you're shining brighter than they ever imagined. Sometimes, the ones who should have clapped the loudest are the first to tell you to leave. And when they do, you walk out with your head high, because their cold hearts ain't got nothing on your fire. So I packed my bags, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. You see, there comes a time when staying costs more than leaving. And I'd paid enough. Paid in tears, in sleepless nights, in dreams shrunk down to fit into rooms where I was no longer welcome. So I took a deep breath, zipped up my last bag, and walked out that door. Not with bitterness in my chest, but with a kind of quiet peace that only comes when your soul knows you're doing what's right, even if it hurts. I didn't run. I moved toward peace, toward purpose, toward something that felt like me again. Found myself in a little place far from the noise, where the birds still sang like they had stories to tell, and the breeze carried no judgment, just the scent of pine and fresh starts. The silence there wasn't empty, it was full of space to think, to breathe, to heal. I wasn't just building a new life, I was building a haven. And you know what happened when I stopped trying to fix what kept breaking me? I started pouring into me. I began eating better, sleeping better, laughing more. Little things that felt like luxuries when I was living for everybody else. And Lord, I started meeting people who didn't need to be convinced of my worth. They just saw it. People who clapped when I won, even if they weren't at the table. People who didn't ask for a piece of the pie but brought something to the kitchen. That's when I knew I'd been living too long in rooms where love had conditions, where my giving heart was treated like a bottomless well. But baby, even the deepest well runs dry if nobody's pouring back into it. So I poured into others. But differently this time, with purpose. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs who reminded me of myself. Hungry, raw, unsure, but full of fire. Helped women build businesses from kitchen counters and laundry rooms. Showed them how to flip an idea into income with nothing but a free app, a dream, and some holy determination. Watched them grow. Watched them bloom. I started teaching kids how to code in community centers with broken air conditioners and outdated computers. Watched little hands turn keys that could unlock futures nobody had imagined for them. And in all that giving, in that right kind of giving, I found myself again. Not drained, not used up, but filled, whole. Because when you stop pouring into cracked cups, you finally get to fill your own. And baby, when your own cup's full, that's when you pour with joy. Not duty, not guilt, but from overflow. That move saved my life. Not 'cause the place was special, but because I chose myself for the first time. Chose my sanity over approval, my peace over pretending, my future over familiar pain. And that ain't selfish, that's sacred. I still get messages, you know. The same folks who called me ungrateful, now asking how I did it. And I answer, kindly but with boundaries. I don't owe anyone my undoing just to prove I still love them. Sometimes, love means letting go. Not out of hate, but out of hope. Hope that they'll grow too. Hope that your distance might plant a seed of change in their own heart. And if not, that's all right. You still get to live in your peace. If you're sitting there right now holding on to something, someone, that's slowly killing your spirit, let this be your sign. It's okay to walk away. Not to prove a point, but to protect your purpose. I left behind what was breaking me, and in doing so, I found what was always waitin' for me, a life rooted in truth, wrapped in peace, and full of people who love me not for what I give, but for who I am. And honey, that kind of life, that's the sweetest kind of revenge. Years later, word got back to me, like it always does. You don't even have to go looking for it. Pain travels fast, especially when it's carrying the names of folks who once told you to leave like you were trash on the curb. Turns out, the very people who cut me out turned their backs and told me I wasn't welcome under the roof I paid for. Well, life had turned on them too. Businesses failed. Health took a turn. Friends scattered. All the things I used to protect them from, they had to face alone. One by one, they started reaching out. First it was a text, short and out of the blue. Then a letter with shaky handwriting, talkin' about how they were just thinking of me. Then came the phone calls, ones that started with small talk and ended with big hints. You know the kind. "We should catch up," they said. "Miss you," they added. "Wish things had gone differently. Now look, Auntie Mae don't believe in holding grudges. That kind of weight'll sore your soul if you're not careful. You walkin' around bitter while they sleepin' just fine. So no, I didn't carry hate in my heart. But don't mistake forgiveness for forgettin'. I may've let go of the anger, but I held tight to my boundaries. I picked up the phone, sure, answered the messages. But I didn't offer money, and I sure didn't offer a rescue. I offered them the same thing they gave me when I needed them most. Distance. I said, kindly and clearly. "I wish you well, from afar." See, people always expect the one who left to come back soft, but what they don't realize is that the fire they pushed me into didn't burn me. It refined me. I walked out of that season stronger, wiser, and finally understanding that peace is more precious than any reunion. They thought I wouldn't make it without them. They thought leaving me behind would break me. But baby, let me tell you, revenge ain't always loud. Sometimes it's just living so well, so full, so free, that the people who tried to write your ending have to sit back and watch you thrive. I didn't rub it in. Didn't post no flashy pictures. Didn't boast. I just kept living. I built. I loved. I grew. And I did it all without a single drop of bitterness in my tea. That's the kind of life that speaks louder than any comeback line ever could. And it's funny, you know, how people treat you when they think you need them versus when they see you don't. Suddenly, the same confidence they called arrogance, they now call strength. The same ambition they mocked, they now admire. But I didn't grow so I could prove anything to them. I grew so I could live. Truly live. Without apology. And I want you to hear this, sugar. You don't have to go back and fix everything just because you forgave it. Some bridges don't need rebuilding. Some doors need to stay shut. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Your peace is a home you worked hard to build. Don't hand out spare keys to folks who tried to burn it down. I'll always pray for them. I'll always hope they find their own healing. But I won't invite them back into a space they once polluted with envy and silence. Because growth, real growth, it ain't just about what you gain. It's about what you refuse to lose again. So yes, I heard they were hurting. And yes, my heart hurt a little too. But I didn't let that pain pull me back into old patterns. I stood in my truth, tall and still, and I let grace speak for me. Not pity, not guilt. Grace, wishing you well from a distance. That's not revenge. That's restoration. And baby, that's the sweetest kind of justice. When your peace speaks so loud, they have no choice but to hear it, even from the other side of the silence they created. Now baby, don't get me wrong. I cried. Lord knows I did. I hurt in places I didn't even know had names. There were nights I sat on the porch, talkin' to the stars like they had answers. asking why the people I loved the most were the ones who left the deepest wounds. I screamed at the moon like it owed me an explanation. And when no answers came, I just sat with the silence, let it wash over me like cold river water, and kept breathing. Some losses don't happen all at once. They chip away at you. A comment here, a cold shoulder there, until one day you look around and realize the people you were fightin' for weren't ever fightin' for you. That kind of truth. It don't come easy. But it comes clean. And when it finally hits, it strips you bare. But baby, sometimes you gotta be stripped to be rebuilt. I healed. Not overnight, not in a straight line, but I healed. I stopped waitin' for apologies that were never comin'. I stopped tryin' to rewrite the past into something prettier than it was. I started tellin' the truth, to myself mostly. About who hurt me. About how long I let it happen. About how little I asked for in return. And in that healing, I found peace. Not the fake kind you put on for company, but the real kind. The quiet that don't ache. The silence that feels like safety. The joy that don't need no audience. Let me tell y'all something. From a place of truth, from a heart that's been cracked wide open and filled back up with grace, you are not obligated to shrink for people who refuse to grow. Don't let nobody make you feel guilty for getting bigger, bolder, brighter. Their comfort is not your cage. If your wings scare them, baby, they were never meant to fly with you in the first place. You are not selfish for choosing peace over dysfunction. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You don't owe your sanity to nobody, not even the ones who raised you, not even the ones who say, "But we're family." Let me tell you, family don't always come through blood. Sometimes it comes through soul, and you are not wrong for walking away from folks who only loved you when you were useful. That ain't love. That's leechin'. And you are no one's well to be drained dry. You are a garden to be nurtured. A fire to be respected. A whole human being with value even when you're not giving, doing, fixing, saving. Now this might surprise you, but even Harvard caught on to this truth. A study by Harvard Business Review found that 60% of entrepreneurs face resentment from their own close circles when they become successful. Imagine that. Not strangers, not competitors, but friends, family, the folks who should have been cheering the loudest. That's not a coincidence, sugar. That's human insecurity. Some people only know how to love you small. And when you outgrow that space, they don't clap. They criticize. But here's what I've learned: your calling, your purpose. It's bigger than their comfort. You were not built to babysit other people's egos. You were built to rise, to lead, to live. And sometimes that means outgrowing people you never imagined life without. That's the hardest part, but it's also the holiest. So don't you dare apologize for becoming who you were always meant to be. Don't shrink so someone else can feel tall. Don't dim just to make others comfortable in the dark. Your light matters. Your joy matters. Your peace matters. I lost some people I thought would be with me forever. And for a while, that loss felt like death. But now it feels like freedom. Like God made room for better. Like I finally cleared the table for people who bring love with clean hands and open hearts. That's the lesson in the loss, baby. It ain't always about what you let go of. Sometimes it's about what finally has space to come in. So when they ask me, Auntie Mae, was it worth it? I smile. Not the kind of smile you wear to hide the pain, but the kind that rises up from a healed place. And I say, baby, I didn't just survive. I bloomed. I bloomed in places no one ever expected anything to grow. In dry seasons I dug deep. In storms I held steady. And when they tried to bury me with their words, their silence, their judgment, well, they didn't know I was a seed. All that pressure, all that darkness, it didn't destroy me. It grew me. I built something they couldn't steal, couldn't sabotage, and couldn't silence, not even the ones who tried. Not the doubters, not the takers, not the ones who threw my name around like it was dirt. And baby, that kind of peace. The kind you don't have to defend, the kind you don't have to prove. That's wealth. That's riches. That's revenge in its finest form. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd leave sooner. I'd love myself louder. I'd walk away quicker from folks who only knew how to take. I'd build with bold hands and a braver heart. 'Cause now I know the longer you stay in rooms not built for your light, the dimmer you start to believe you are. But your shine, that's divine, sugar. That's purpose with a pulse. So if you're sitting there, feeling like maybe you're too much or maybe not enough, if they've made you feel like love is earned through service and silence, if they only come around when they need something and vanish when it's your turn to lean, let me be the one to say it plain. You are not wrong for choosing yourself. Let this be your permission slip, signed and sealed with every tear I ever cried on a pillow no one saw. Every sleepless night I sat wondering if walking away made me heartless. Every time I tried to make myself smaller so someone else could feel big. I did all that so you wouldn't have to. Don't dim your light for folks who only show up when the power's out. They don't get to benefit from your shine if they can't love you when you're glowing. Don't you beg for a seat at tables you were born to build. Let them eat in peace, and you go make your own feast. Set a table so wide, it feeds your spirit and invites only those who come with clean hands and true hearts. And if they throw you out, if they slam the door and call you names and act like your love was disposable, don't you cry for too long. You go build a castle so high, so steady, so radiant that their judgment can't reach the windows. You hear me? Go build it out of everything they said you'd never be. Go make your pain your bricks, your healing the foundation, and your joy the stained glass in every room. Because success with peace, oh honey, that's the sweetest kind of revenge. And the thing about that kind of revenge, it don't require applause. It don't seek permission. It don't come with a loud bang or a mic drop. It comes soft. It comes still. It comes with you sittin' in your chair, breathin' easy, knowin' you didn't give up on yourself, even when they did. So, as the fire dies down and this old rocking chair keeps on creakin', let me just leave you with this: you ain't broken. You're becoming. You ain't too much. You're just enough. And the life you dream of, it ain't too far. It just starts with one brave choice to stop settlin' and start risin'. Now go on, sugar, and build that kingdom.